hype around AI. There's so much hype over the last 12 months, 18 months about AI. I think ever since, we got out of COVID, the big new thing is AI, and everybody is talking about AI. And ChatGPT has obviously, impressed people, I would say, and also intrigued them at the same time. At the same time, there's so much conversation about, if you look at today the industry, and I was recently talking to some very senior person in the industry, and he was mentioning about, look at how the IT services companies and technology companies are not hiring. IIT Kanpur has got 35% students not placed. So many, all most of the IITs don't have almost their entire class not, more than half of the class is not placed. Look at the regional engineering colleges, there are lots of people still available for jobs. So what's going on out here? Somewhere there is a concern that AI is going to come, it's going to disrupt the marketplace, it's going to disrupt the way we are working. Lots of things are happening. So the question is, in this particular conversation, the idea is to actually hear from each one of you, because you're closest to the ground. Some of you are CHROs and, also managing HR business partnership roles, doing talent and OD roles and stuff like that. So you'd be having a closer view in terms of how are actually organizations looking at what AI is doing, and is it actually impacting the way you are selecting and recruiting talent into teams as we speak, right? I'm talking about current scenario. Is that what actually is happening on the ground? Yeah. So my request is, if you raise your hand, actually press the hand button. Uh, as you press it, the sequence automatically gets set on Microsoft Teams, so you know who is first, who is next, and so on. So it will stop, avoid us from speaking on top of each other. So I can see Mahesh has already raised his hand, and after which Sachin. So Mahesh, please go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, Anand, this is very interesting topic because it's a buzz right now. Rather, I would say that HR has gone through. First of all, how much time do I have? So accordingly, I'll frame my
Two to
answer.
three, 2 to 3 minutes on every
Okay,
question, so that others also have an opportunity to share their
exactly.
perspective.
So please raise your hand if my 2 3 minutes like this, so I can go slow. Okay, so first of all, this is very interesting topic because it's a buzz right now, and HR has gone through these buzzes multiple times, right? Like for example, there was a time of talent management, so everybody was talking about talent. There was a time where LPG has been introduced, that is a liberalization, privatization, globalization. Then we gone through a different era of moving HR into a strategic HR, then room in the boardroom. So ideally now we are into a technological transformation. So it is not something new that the HR folks have seen. And this is coming up very big way because of the theme every organization works is do more with less. Okay, so if you see today in last few years, the HR ratio everywhere has gone substantially high. So I remember when I started my career 25 years back with Abbott Labs, that time we were like one HR guy used to have 150% or people supporting. Now that gone up to 800, 900. If you go to ITES companies like TCS, Infosys, we recently did the benchmark. It's 800 to 1000 is the range that they have for one HR person. So how that will happen? So first of all, whatever transactions that could be, repetitive in nature needs to get into a technology. That is a need of an hour. Okay. So that is first thing. But then second thing, this is a journey. Okay. I always say this is a journey, but this journey is without destination. And this destination keep changing. Why I'm saying, like, for example, my organizations are big enough to have entire human capital management system. But there are maybe a small companies who are okay to be run on the Excel. They need not to go for any AI, ML or anything because they are sufficiently equipped for a lot of tools which is easily available. But generally people forget that and start running behind the big tools that we have. Now you're basically question that how it is really boils down onto the ground. Okay, so boils down to the ground is two things what I have seen drastic adaptation of technology, which is the HR operations. Like for example, if you say hiring to firing, a lot of places that we started using HRML or IAML tools, which are primarily for operations, but it is not come big way into the talent management yet, or you can say interview at second, third, fourth layer. You must have seen bots taking interview, but that is only at the screening level, not at the second, third, or fourth level. So ideally speaking, what I see, it is not changing in a way for way of HR at this juncture, but it will. And I think so when the subsequent questions of how that will change, we will talk about it. But as a Honeywell, if I see that all the companies that I work, we are very highly adaptive as far as the technology is concerned. Eh, and what I have seen, like, okay, what I have seen is that we are on the right track, and we're going to see that adaptation of change in next couple of years from now.
Great. Thanks, Mahesh. I think let me just expand this conversation. See, oftentimes we are looking at technology from three different layers. The first was productivity, which brought in efficiency into the kind of work, and quite similar to what Mahesh was saying, that how can we automate processes and how can you increase the span of control. Earlier it was 1 is to 150, now it's 1 is to 900 or 1000. How is a particular HR, BP or anyone expected to manage that? So efficiency, automation is some one part. Second was intelligence. When Power BI kind of tools came, and various intelligence tools came in, uh, people started talking about how technology can add intelligence, which will help people make decisions. Today when we're talking about AI, the conversation is not about intelligence anymore, it's about decision making. We're saying that AI will decide, and it will decide like humans. It will think like humans, it is programmed to think like us, and it will actually decide for us. So from efficiency, which is productivity, to you're going to intelligence, and from intelligence now you're going to decision making. Now, keeping that frame in mind, as HR professionals, how are you looking at talent? Are you looking at talent who understand these tools, understand the impact of this technology when you're hiring, maybe in HR or maybe outside HR? So when I'm asking you, Sachin, you could expand the response beyond the function and look at the business as a whole. Yeah, Sachin.
Yeah, sure. So, interestingly, what kind of Mahesh mentioned, and a lot of that is true. I would like to kind of move away a little bit to the point where everything starts, right? What are we trying to solve? What question I think anybody who is trying to adapt or adopt AI has to ask themselves as a function or maybe as broader scale org, what are you trying to solve by implementing an AI technology at what layer? One, who are these people who are going to use the AI? Do they understand how to use it? Do they know the pros and cons of it? But let's be fair to understand there can be enough and more downside if not the right tool is implemented by the right people in the right places. And we've seen that in a lot of places. So that, and then all tools, right? At the back end, there's a data that's created which gets fed in by humans. AI reads off or feeds off data throughout intelligence, which is either by a trend analysis, either by some backend Excel from where it's getting picked up, or an HRMS platform from where it picks up. Now, what I'm trying to highlight here is all the AI tools are going to work absolutely to the point if one, you understand what you're trying to solve as a broader problem. If that definition is not right, and that I mean at the, let's say, CXO level, at the founder level, when you embed a technology into anything without just getting excited about it, not knowing what it's going to be the end output, then it can be a little tricky. And then are people who are going to use it equipped enough to interpret what comes out of it, right? So there I have seen enough downside where people have just used chat GPT to make a fancy 30 liner email when the answer was 2 liner, right? Because it gives you fancy language, looks good, but at the end of it, the answer was only 2 liner. So you have to be smart about it. You need to know what you're trying to solve, and then if it really makes a difference into your productivity, efficiency, NPSs, employee experiences, then you need to kind of figure out what area of your organization you're trying to use it.
Great. Thanks so much, Sachin. Uh, Dr. Raju, you have a perspective?
Yes, like if you go by the this AI, so whenever we define even into the like recruitment, so we define that JD, we have got certain those keywords, we're working as for that. So that frame is fixed to a certain level. But once with our hiring experience, if we talk about, so it is not only the framework which works, because in high pot case, generally it is like face-to-face meetings which help us identify sometimes it screens out very talented people as well, because we have given it a fixed place or a fixed frame in which it is operating. So might not be a good tool that way. Uh, while coming to data, like this is generally data driven technology. So data itself is not having enough of the wisdom. In case we want to use any data for our benefit, so first of all, this complete data has to be derived into the wisdom, and then that wisdom should be taken into consideration so that we ensure that it draws the proper conclusion. It draws the proper conclusion. Then only we can utilize that intelligence or knowledge for our use. As far as coming to like whether it will have impact on the employment with respect to HR, so I don't see it as in near future. Reason being that employee connect or that personal connect always is useful. If I just share an example, uh, we are having the problem, especially in the US, with respect to manpower. So what we have done, we have complete lines which are being operated by the robots itself. But still, for our quality documents, for our other documents, and to monitor these robots, still we need the people. However, we can just have the programming done. But with our ophthalmic line, where the 1 milliliter is the size of that particular canister, in that we have got like 2% of the variation, who will ensure that we are as per quality and as per quantity. So for that purpose, I think AI is useful, but with respect to, I think its utilization remains up to 20% or so, not beyond that.
Great, great. Thanks, Dr. Raju. I think interesting perspective. Basically, what I'm hearing you say is that AI is not going to take away any jobs. That's number one. Second, most important thing is completely relies on data, very similar to what Sachin and Mahesh have said. And if it relies on data, then it depends on what data you feed in is what it actually behaves and acts on, right? So we'll come to data and data sanctity in a little bit towards the latter part of the conversation. Parul, what do you think?
I'll give you two perspectives, Anand. One is overall, not just from an Xceedance where I'm currently employed, but the trends that I'm seeing. One is the kind of talent that we are trying to hire, or the overall talent sellability, or the overall assessment and competence of a particular group. It's not just about so far we have not reached a stage wherein it is making or breaking the deal. If you know AI, if you know certain tools, yes, this adds as a adds as a star to your profile, but it's not a make or break. But at the same time, we have clearly seen that folks who were able to use AI into their day-to-day operations, the output and the productivity they were able to give was much faster. So while we are preparing JDs, while we are putting adverts outside, and while we are even asking managers to do assessment, we are saying that AI and these tools, whether it's Power BI, whether it's your Copilot, Cortana, Chat GPT, whatever that is, knowing them is good to have, but one has to have a clear understanding to draw that line, that what is it that is requested and how much am I able to really draw value from the tools that I have. Secondly, from an HR perspective, when I talk about my own teams, when I talk about the HR fraternity, the things that we are conscious about, one of the jokes that I mostly tell other HR folks is that I am worried that managers would start writing performance review with the help of Chat GPT. That's the nightmare we don't want to get into, right? And overall, for the HR teams, I think it's something that we need to build upon. We really need to be better with data and analytics, and AI does help with that. So a bit of for AI, but in a controlled way.
Fair point. I think, while you look at application standpoint and, there is an edge that people have if they know the tools and how to use it. Also, a lot of the technology tools that are available in the market are at a fairly nascent stage. So the accuracy of some of these tools are also questionable to some extent, even today. And I mean, I think OpenAI has been very candid in saying that, don't take this as absolutely accurate. It's based on certain information that it derives from. Uh, as we move to Akila, I think we'd like to welcome uh, Janesh, right? Ganesh, how do you spell that name? Ganesh?
Yes, you spelled it correctly, Janesh. And my
Janesh.
sincere apologies for this delay. I couldn't avoid an employee emergency, so I had to deal with that. Thank you
No
so much for
worries.
allowing me in this
No
panel.
worries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. And so we'll get you to speed, Janesh. But Akila, can we move to you? You're on mute.
Sorry. I think there are two perspectives over here, and I think I agree with Sachin. I think when it comes to AI and AI implementation, what becomes important is that we sort of address the problem that we are trying to solve, right? And it also depends on the broader organizational agenda. What is it that the organization sort of wants to define in terms of adaptation as far as AI is concerned? I think those are two broad areas that we need to address per se. But on the ground, I think, given what Mahesh highlighted, I think the focus is obviously do more with less. So to that extent, there is a lot more adaptation of tools, like AI that organizations are looking at. It is embedded in our daily lives. When it comes to, let's say, calling a call center today, you see that it is not answered by people. There's a chatbot that is there. Use of Siri. All of us are on Microsoft Teams, and how AI sort of even randomly assigning, based on, I guess, raising of the hand. All of that, I think, are great examples in terms of how it is embedded already into our daily lives. But it's important to kind of really look at solving for the organizational agenda, and sort of adapting the tools. So, for example, from an organization point of view, we sort of use AI for better decision making, especially given that we are in the lending space, right? We want to make sure that we look at all the data of people who kind of come onto our app, and helps us really look at using predictive models, using data science and using AI, so that we are able to make better decisions. So the adaptation is there, but are we sort of hiring differently? I think it depends on the role as well, right? Given that there are knowledge workers who probably need to have more exposure to this than somebody who's a customer service rep. I think those are questions that we need to address in terms of what are some of the skills that we need to look for. But again, when it comes to hiring, what we do definitely see is somebody who's willing to learn, being nimble, being adaptable. I think those are key qualities that we look for, if not broader AI exposure.
Oh, great. Thanks, Akila. I think, you got me thinking on a couple of things when you said fintech lending and all that. I was wondering, if a loan underwriting would be done by AI instead of having an underwriter, as an example,
Right. Yeah.
would a grievance redressal which Janesh got caught into, or some challenge with an employee, would be handled by a AI bot or a tool which will probably, grant him additional medical benefit or some other services on behalf of, the CHROs not being required to make a decision. Some of these things I'm just wondering,
Right.
will there be a day a few years from now, will, some of these things which we say, exception approval to the CHRO, if and a lot of exception approvals become a norm when you're a CHRO coming to your table.
Sure. May
Who
not be
knows?
very far away.
May not be very far. We don't know. So it'll be just interesting
Yeah.
to kind of explore that place. But before that, we'll go to Shivakumar. So Shivakumar, we'd like to hear from you, since you're in the, I know you're a part of the IMB's, executive programs, and there's a lot of technology that is used there. You're also partners with edX. Thanks to my association with Vasanti, I also have some sense of that, and also the work that you're doing. The question is, there's so much conversation on learning that has happened, using technology in learning, automated, guidance on career paths, choices that people want to make, learning paths that people need to take. Has anything actually changed? Because from the story of MOOCs, which was, a fancy word at one point in time, when Coursera, edX, and everyone came to, learning on the go, learning in the moment, bite-sized learning, continuous learning. I mean, how many phrases have come and gone over the last 5 years? Uh, so what is a new phrase in AI that we can learn from you, Shiva?
So thanks, Anand. I'd like to approach it slightly differently, Anand. So, for example, about 2.5 decades back when we had search engines, Yahoo and Mozilla. I mean, uh, many of the search engines, and Google came. The bus to kind of look at information and search for something so that we get that information from a basic information. I would link it from a basic order, a basic need to a really more detailed research as such, we could get it. And now AI is more currently from a maturity angle. If you compare it with a maturity in an organization or an individual, I will not look at HR. HR, I will kind of think. People are now using it more like a 3, 4 year old child, playing, experimenting, trying to kind of do certain experiment. We have a few people only experimented higher order kind of this thing, and it has become a buzzword. If I don't use AI today, I am looked at very differently or in a very ordinary manner. So I see a couple of things from a learning side, Anand. You and me have debated in the past. I think what's happening is the neurochemistry is changing. There's a lot of dependency among the younger, the less than the between the 12 to 25 age group, using a lot of these tools in the tier 1, tier 2 cities. And they are kind of like, it's like your Insta or Facebook or addiction to whatever you call the social media platform. People have tend to kind of put it on their own kind of platform. You go to a class and a faculty is teaching, the student actually has done enough kind of information research and available with that. But basically, the tacit wisdom or the knowledge in terms of the interpretative part is something which is missing. So I think the wiring is getting a little affected. It is worrying me a lot because I again would like to quote and urge all of you to read a very interesting book if you have not read it. It is called Driver in the Driverless Car by Vivek Wadhwa. Please do get a chance to pick it up or let me know. I can send it across to you as a soft copy. He talks about a futuristic concept of how the future of learning and the future of the world will look like. And he talks about concept like what do you call technology choices which the humanity or an individual, be it an individual user or corporations or governments are going to make or society make will impact this thing. Whatever we talk about automation, jobs and all that will come. People are going to experiment more and more. But the learning side, and this Anand and me, I had actually been debating for quite some time and I agree with him because for learning to happen, unlearning has to happen. AI doesn't teach you to unlearn. Experiences teach you to unlearn. And AI may not guarantee you learning. Now, with regard to MOOCs and edX, the percentage of utilization or completion of these courses are single digit, any platform. And now we have a very interesting set. On one hand, we have the top tier schools where we have challenges which Anand spoke about jobs. Then you have the middle, and then I come from the retail space and the education space. And I think we will have more such challenges coming in. Adaptation and adoption to newer ways of kind of learning is happening. Now, it's like, how many of you remember 10 phone numbers of your relatives today? Show of hands, without looking at your mobile. So then please understand the neurochemistry has changed. Similarly, that is what I'm trying to say from a learnability angle. The learnability quotient when a student or a young user at workplace, or you look at your own HR colleagues, they are either not the curriculum, it is not taught. It is taught more of a fashionable kind of a course, analytics, business intelligence, all big things. Fundamentally, the way we are looking, we are doing only information searching. Assimilation of information is not happening in a proper manner. So for me, I think the example that none of you remember 10 numbers without looking at your phone book or your mobile, it's a very, very alarming sign. It is happening with the youngsters. Please look at it in your
Sure.
organization. So I will end here, Anand, with one statement.
Thanks.
AI, I think, is both a boon and a bane. We need to be very cautious in the way we use technology, especially for HR professionals. It's all the more critical because they manage the entire learning agenda in organizations too. And it is very, very important the way in which we are able to kind of position it internally.
Great. Thanks, Shiva. I think I think that's a very interesting perspective because I was actually looking to move the conversation in one direction, but probably we can explore this for a little bit because this is a very interesting dimension that is brought in. Are we losing skills? Thanks to AI, are we losing some skills? Are we going to be losing skills? One of the conversations that one was having was look at calculators. When calculators came, mathematics people, normal aptitude to count and deal with numbers changed. You started becoming dependent on calculators. When Excel sheets came, then a lot of the formulas, standard deviation, all of that we used to do probably in our heads, we stopped doing. We just started putting formulas and started dragging and dropping numbers here and there. And today with AI coming in, our design skills, you want to design a picture, you want to improve an image, you want to do some editing skills, all those things are being taken away by AI tools, right? Creating videos is being taken away, drafting job descriptions, or even crafting an email, or like what Parul said, somebody doing performance management, doing a review. All of that AI is going to be doing. Interestingly, I was exploring a tool on LinkedIn where actually I could go on Parul's profile, and there is a tool which is basically a disk supported commerce profiling tool wherein I can just click, and based on her LinkedIn profile, it will actually tell me what is the disk profile of Parul Singh. And it will tell me, is she dominant? Is she this? Is she that? And I'm looking at that saying, wow. And it is, I won't say 100% accurate. It might be even 40% accurate, in some, in the way that it gives you a sense of the person. So even without doing a psychometric, by administering a psychometric to a person, by looking at their profile, the damn tool is telling you something, and you're going to rely your decisions on that. So what I'm trying to say is that the judgment that you would make through an interview or a process, to what Shiva was bringing up, are we going to be losing some skills because of all this technology around us? As much as we're using them as props to help us, are we going to be unskilling ourselves and losing some very fundamental life skills that are required for us? And Janesh, we're going to start with you because give you an opportunity to speak, since you didn't get that opportunity. And Harish, after that to you, we would like to hear you too.
I think what a wonderful twist. And very recently, I was just scrolling through some of the Instagram reels and all, and there I saw one quote which was saying that AI is taking away the job which we should be doing versus what AI should be doing for us. And I have heard Dr. Foujdar also, where he was saying that can AI do those operational jobs which are more important, versus now AI is taking away the strategy, thinking, and those kind of roles from us, and we human beings are still doing the operations. So the AI has to reach to that stage where AI will manage operations for us, and we continue to do the human job, which is thinking, which has been the real civilization. I was listening to one of the speaker where he said it took us thousands of years to actually start talking philosophy, because when we had enough to feed ourselves as a human race, when we had enough safety for our family, then only people had time to think about philosophy. And that's when philosophy started coming in then. And today we have so many philosophies around humans, around religions and all that. Now, if that is separating us from animals, and if today the philosophy is being done by an AI, then we are in big danger. And that we should be, I think, cautious of. How am I using AI? And
Correct.
those things, all of us are aware now. I don't even remember my own number. I only remember my wife's number. And the basic formulas and all calculators and all, they have spoiled us. Our mind at one point of time was so sharp. So we need to be cautious. But parallel to this, is there going to be a survival in isolation? No. The we will have to coexist with AI, but then be really prudent in deciding how would I use AI, not be dependent on that. Again, no, what people have always been saying and philosophers have been saying, that don't be slave to technology. But we have become slave to technology. What you were talking, my kids are always on the mobile phones and all, and there have been so many Instagram post around that, how the society is becoming slave to technology. We need to be cautious about that. We don't become slave to AI, or we don't become slave to the technologies, but make good use of these technologies for our well-being, so that we can spare time for
Sure.
meditation, or maybe little better jobs, little better decision making jobs, which makes us more human
Sure.
than so that's something which I would want to share on this piece.
Thanks, Janesh. Harish, do you have a perspective?
Yeah, I think what I'll speak, somebody may not like it, but let me put it like this. Uh, I think most of you would have tried calling a customer service, a customer care number from your mobile, maybe of your telecom or any of your service provider, and normally you don't get to connect with the other person directly. There is IVR which will go on, which will ask you to press 2, 3, 4, 1, something like that to go to the customer care. And most of the times, you get frustrated. A normal human being will do, because end of the day it is very hard to connect a customer care nowadays, and they will charge you 3 rupees, something like that, as per the carrier charges are concerned. This is a general experience for anybody, and if you are not doing this, I am sorry that you are in a different world. Now this is what AI will bring you. You will lose human connect. Well, let us remember, we are in HR means what? We are more connected to the humans. So my way of looking at it is, AI is creative only if we are creative. The probing has to be very proper in that sense that it brings out the right thing. Sometimes it is not like that AI will bring everything onto the board and it is just easy for us to do. If I ask an AI to search a resume in Naukri and give it back to me, again, it is important for me to go through all the resume it has picked up on the JD what I had given. Similarly, if I ask an AI to do an interview, it can do it on the prompts and on the kind of questionnaire I had given it to it. Then it will start doing it. It cannot question directly a candidate. If you want to try, there is Naukri 360 available. Go and try there. You can do a mock interview there, and you can see the same questions will be asked to Sachin, Janesh, Parul, everybody in a different way. Because it's a mock thing which is happening, which is literally written over there on your profile. Now coming to what next? Redundant repeated jobs which are there in the system, which are there in the system, will be automated. If you remember, I am an engineer pass out of 2003 and MBA from 2005. So I remember during my engineering days, 1999, there is big thing going on, Y2K alarm going on, the computers will shut down and all that. Is that true? No. Right? When industry 3.0 started, presently with 5.0, 4.0 is also going on. People will worried, jobs will be gone. There will be nothing available. Everybody will be running away. Is it like that? No. There is new thing which is coming up. There was importance for all of us on. There was a time when cellular launched in India where the cost was 16 rupees a call for a minute. Today you pay zero. In fact, we only speak on data. Getting it? Still, more people are connected when it is data. More connectivity is going through. So I think this is human evolution. Like Charles Darwin has said, the most powerful beast will stay, others will wipe out. And I believe till date we are the most powerful things. We can blow out a country, we can blow up ourselves by placing a bomb, and we can do whatever we can, being a human being. If you are not agreeing, please go through the newspaper today or tomorrow. You will find a news, either a man killing somebody or he's doing something like that. So we are actually evolution people. We do a lot of uh,
Sure.
findings of how to get
Yep.
out of this.
Yeah.
So AI as such actually pushes us to three things. Let me end like this, three things. We need to be very much data savvy, which Janesh has spoken, that we are not remembering numbers, we are not looking into data recently. So the importance of data savviness will go up, because that is needed to make sure that the AI is giving you the right answers. Second thing, you should start embracing the technology. Where there is redundant jobs, where you find that can be replaced, we should be ready enough to do that. How can
Sure.
you embrace technology? By learning it. Third, new skills to be learned. Learning will be a constant activity. If not today this, there is tomorrow this. I am an MBA in 2005, I am a PG diploma from I am Ahmedabad in 2011, will not make me a great person in 2024. Simple. What I am today is more important. What is that I am learning today is important. That challenge will be there for every person.
Great.
Right? AI is only a tool that will help you. It is like your laptop, it is like your mobile phone, which is helping you to do your job. I feel it is like this. If it is becoming like Robo 2.0, Rajnikant kind of a story, I think the humans will be evolved to that too. There is no issue on that.
Cool.
Right?
Thanks. Yeah.
So this is what I come from.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Harish. So I think great points. I think just we'll shift the conversation slightly. So I think there is broadly a consensus in the group that AI is a tool which needs to be thoughtfully deployed, has to be thoughtfully used to the to the advantage of organizations, also contextually to the business needs and whatever needs that an organization has. Now, if we have to look from an HR perspective, which are the areas, right, where you think one could deploy various AI tools and how they can actually, one can make the role of a CHRO, the role of a chief learning officer, or that of a HRBP, or that of anyone else, a talent acquisition professional, smooth, comfortable, efficient, and good, so that the meatier part of the meatier part of the job can actually be done by the human beings, which is where they can exercise their gray cells, their brains, and they can actually add value to the work of the organization. Yeah. And I don't know, Shiva, whether you have raised your hand or your hand from the previous option is still up. So I'm not sure, but you're number one right now. Okay, then it's Sachin. Let's hear Sachin.
Right. So I think some of the areas that Mahesh already brought up during question one was the ops kind of becomes the first priority, HR ops, right? A lot of back-end transactional jobs, tracking data, managing reports, doing dashboards. Some of that which takes times, quite a bit of time. Pure profile creations, data entry jobs, all of that is a redundant piece of activity, which yet very, very critical because that forms the base of your HR data, right? So you need to have clarity on those parts. I think the other areas that I see a lot of traction now that AI has picked up. I know a lot of firms work with AI platforms like Lena AI. There are a couple more out there. Those guys help you with employee experiences, NPSs also. So they, of course, you need to draw the framework of the kind of question and what kind of output you need during those events. But once you give it to them, they are able to very rigidly and accurately track responses. The other area is when you talk about HRBP function, a lot of redundant queries, especially in big organizations of 8,000, 9,000 people, when people want to solve basics, my salary slip, my this, my that, today chatbots can respond to you and throw them back to you in like a minute. So all of that additional time that goes out, the frustration that adds on, especially when the business partner to a employee ratio is getting upwards of 500, right? That can make life of an HRBP far easier. And then they have enough and more time for media conversation, people grievances, growth, succession planning, so on and so forth. So some of these are elements where I think AI can contribute massively to how HR can become a function to reckon with.
Thank you, Sachin, and thank you for keeping the answer brief and to the point. So it actually helps give all of us a little time to explore, and also maybe we can dive into some other aspects of AI which I want to touch upon before we close. Yeah. So Mahesh.
So I think so. Sachin covered most of it very rightly. But when I'm talking to my team and my business leaders, I'm saying yes, AI will going to take up the jobs definitely, but only those jobs which are repetitive in nature. So those who don't want it to do something new or who don't want it to innovate, those jobs will go. And being very honest, we are completely fine with that because that is the stuff that is we need to be really cognizant of. Now, coming back to the few implementation, I would like to give few examples because we talked about chatbot. Now we have implemented one tool called Red. Now this is a tool, basically nothing but when the moment I log in into the Red knows what is my type of queries been generally been asked. So it will show and pop up those kind of a stuff right in the beginning. Okay, so it would be easier if there is a new query, definitely I can raise that. Second, I think so it would be easier for that individual as an employee experience because Sachin talked about employee experience and I will give you a very interesting example. If I wanted to apply for a leave, I don't want it to log in anywhere. I just need to go on one app, say I'm applying for a leave, and it will go to my manager for a one click approval in the mobile. No need of any HCM system, nothing like that. So ideally that is one. Second interesting thing, if you see where the AI is being used now, we give reward and recognition to people. Now, suppose if you are giving me a reward today, what I'll do, I'll take a screenshot, I'll publish that into my Instagram, Facebook, or on my LinkedIn, right? What we are now started doing, we are giving that platform directly link to our HCM system. So the moment you get something as a reward, automatically you can post. So a lot of ease that we are offering. So AI and this technology will help us to give that eases to these people. Okay. And second, then dashboards and everything is very common because we are a very broad-based company, globally around 140,000 people, and in India around 15, 16,000 people. So we have like all possible tools that you can think of, and we use that in a very effective way, very, very effective way. So that is where I see a lot of value add from this particular thing. And in my view, like I'm in this organization from 11 years. When I started, it's 150 people that I'm managing. Now I'm managing around 475 people under one HR. So if we don't have these kind of a tools, I will not be able to support that extension of stuff. And now coming to a decision making, last 1 minute. So when I run the reports in my tool for say talent management for high potential kids, then for example, talent need identification, or I can see the trend of the future high potential. Everything is available for me in predictive analytics. So I get the report. Instead of spending my time on the report, I generally use my time on the predictive analytics to understand the parameter, designing the parameters for the predictive analytics, and then run the report. I don't know how many of you use the crystal report. Any one of you use the crystal report? You can define your parameters and then report would be thrown to you. That's the crystal report that we used to have. So that's an advanced version of the crystal report that we use, and that is how I think so a lot of new technology that been adopted. And it's just a beginning, but I think so it would be more. I don't think so any job will go, but if people don't learn new things, definitely their job will go.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Actually, the closing point was a very powerful point. So, is AI going to take your job away? The answer is no. But if you do not learn how to use AI, then your job will go by itself, right? So, that's an interesting perspective. Dr. Raju, your thoughts?
Like AI is helpful for a few routine things like Mahesh and Sachin both have told. Uh, in case we talk about ourselves, like we've got a centralized HR sitting in India, our US employees, at least for their regular queries, these things are helpful. For onboarding, yes, this is helpful. With respect to payroll, it's helpful. For employee records, this is helpful. Even for initial shortlisting of the CVs in hiring, that is going to be helpful. But few things where actual human intervention is required. Me being the trained psychologist from Defense Institute of Psychological Research. So when we go for the selection in defense forces, you will just find that there is hardly 0.001% error which happens while selecting officers especially. So how that comes? That comes with that particular human observation with respect to their thematic appreciation, with respect to psychological, with respect to their group learning. So all those things cannot be done with AI. These come with the experience, these come with the human touch, and there only we are able to predict the things correctly. Data also, like we can have the MIS, we can have any type of data, but yes, our that experience which we have gained in the industry over a period of time, that helps basically to interpret in a better way. So yes, we should take the help of AI or like this ML, but that should be kept to the level wherein there is no chance of the error. For like our training needs, because quality being the very, very stringent in pharma. So we have defined for this training need identification, few trainings are mandatory for everyone. Then based on the JD, it automatically matches which are the trainings necessary. And only on qualifying those trainings, either classroom or through our learning platform, a person clears those examination, then only put to the work. This is really helpful because earlier we were making the complete calendar for so many thousands of the employees uh, to have their repetitive trainings, refresher trainings, on the job trainings, all those things. But at least now that manpower, those man hours are being utilized on the qualitative jobs.
Sure.
That's from me.
Great. Thanks so much. Parul, before we come to you, just one perspective, if it's possible for you to touch upon, is the learning dimension. How, what are the tools that we will be using in terms of guiding people on their learning paths, career paths, new skills to be learned? Because there's a lot of conversation around it, but has anything hit the ground as yet?
Yeah, I think conversations have been going on, Anand, from quite some time around the same things that, how can we leverage this information better and can we have some, something built around it, right? But nothing truly, I would not say that things haven't touched the ground. Things have touched the ground. There is something that we are able to draw out of the tools that we are using for performance management, out of the tools that we are using for employee experiences, out of the tools that we are using for learning management also, but still a human intervention is required because you really still need to see. The tool may still throw some ideas that, okay, if somebody is into a certain marketing role, is based into this geography, the last performance rating was this and this is the succession plan, maybe these are the trainings that the individual should do, right? However, that still has to be fine tuned to what the career path the employee has chosen, or where does it align totally with the growth path that sort of aligns with the organizational growth as well, right? So we still need to keep an eye on what is being thrown at us, and then use that information as a good platform that, okay, fine, these are the things that are coming. What I'm also seeing is that during these learning management systems and all of that, we are able to, they themselves ask you to set your own goals. And once you have said that these are the skills that you want to learn, it keeps throwing you programs that these are the programs that you do, and it keeps a track, and it prompts you to do more, assign for more programs, enroll for more programs, take quizzes, take questionnaires around it, right? But again, the real value, to be able to really measure the real value of these AI interventions in learning, is we are a little far from that.
Great point. I think great point. I think some of the, interestingly, in one prior conversation, somebody was telling me, since I'm an executive coach, somebody was telling me that Marshall Goldsmith has launched a new AI tool, and all the coaches' jobs are going to go away because the Marshall Goldsmith is going to use AI to do coaching. Contrary to what Dr. Raju or Harish were mentioning a little while back. So in that meeting, I was thinking I've lost my job. So and I have to figure out a
I'll
new
just
job.
quickly, Anand, I'll interrupt you here and quickly add one point, especially as a coach myself also. The things that AI has helped us, not only as a coach, but also within the HR fraternities, at least to give us the simplest things of giving us notes of each meeting, right? That
Correct.
this is what has happened in the meeting. And especially when it is about coaching and when it is about leadership development, the kind of conversations that, it's not humanly possible to stay tuned to the whole 40 minutes or 60 minutes conversation, right? So the things that we might have skipped as humans, that's where the notes that AI throws, and then how do I take it back and use it in designing a learning or
Good
a
point.
development program,
Great point.
has something which gives me hopes.
Yeah, great point. Thanks, Farrell. Shiva, we'll go to you and then we'll go to Sachin. And just request to keep it brief because I want to explore one other dimension of AI, which is very critical, and we don't want to miss that.
Yeah, only a quick point, Anand. I see a lot of adoption in AI, this thing happening in business faster than in HR in organization, which is a very interesting trend. HR seems to be still exploring information and this thing. I'm not generalizing, but what my experience over the last several years looking at different organizations, and the business sees that because it is directly impacting either the P&L or some kind of an optimization in cost or resources. But HR seems to be sometimes a little reluctant to. That is my thought. I don't know. We will all agree on that, but just to throw it in the group for discussion. Thank you.
Well, I know that's a very tricky one that you've thrown in, and I would not want to pick that ball. For now, Sachin will go to you as a last word on this topic, and we'll shift
I
topics.
think, I want to kind of take a hit at Shiva's question. We are reluctant, and I'll tell you why, especially on learning side, right? Look at the history of our experiences on learning side, on e-learning platform versus face-to-face training, right? We know the easy answer there. People skip through slides, get through assessments, easy. Everybody's a winner on e-learning, right? And face to face, we always, that's an old school, always interactive, always somehow those batches always kind of got the more, you got more out of them versus e-learning programs. Today, everything from product training, sales training, post training, everything is e-learning, right? And you make somebody do e-learning posh, and then you ask the next guy, what's the posh process? I don't think you get a response there. So why learning has had a problem implementing technology? Because exactly for reasons that in front face-to-face interaction kind of results in higher adoption of information. Secondly, I was at a HR conference recently where the topic was the same, and there were a couple of learning platforms who had their chaos set up talking about how they are trying to solve learning through AI. The interactive areas that they are using it is conversations, interactions, trainings, rebuttals, and like if it's a pitch, a sales pitch that somebody is doing, the bot will kind of keep giving rebuttals and responses, but the training stopped after two rebuttals. So if it's a demo, the AI gave you two rebuttals, you gave responses, and then it ended. Your natural situation is not going to be like that, right? And when I ask these questions to those guys who are building these platforms, they're like, the more and more information we get from humans on rebuttals, then we will keep adding them. So the answer was humans have to keep giving those rebuttals for them to be able to go further in terms of development. And that's a straightforward answer, right? Without us adding value, bots are not going to be able to go. They've arrived, but I don't hear anybody saying this works successfully for us on learning. That's my viewpoint.
Great, thanks. Whenever Shiva throws a curveball, I know somebody will end up picking it up. So, Sachin, you did. But anyway, so I want to explore one very interesting topic, and we have precisely, 20 minutes to go for this call, is the issue of, data and ethical use of data when we are adopting something like AI. See, AI is entirely depending on what you feed it. AI by itself is nothing. We all understand that because at the end of the day, it is it's a language model which is picking up and feeding off the information that it is fed. So theoretically speaking, if I put my information and all of us, 10 of us put our information into the database, it's picking up all our information, not seeking our permission, mind you. It is not asking us for anything. My opinion, your opinion, all the opinion, it's taking up and it's interpreting on its own based on whatever language models are created, and then it's going to throw up recommendations and advice and guidance or intelligence, as we call it, to others out there. The question which everyone is asking is that, okay, there is so much information out there, but how ethical is it? Number one. Number two, can in that case AI have its own prejudice? Because we all have prejudice, right? Our opinion is our prejudice in some form because we come from our background of experience and our own upbringing, our social economic experiences, and that is how we have framed our thoughts. And that is our own prejudice. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, it's just prejudice as data, right? And if we have a dominant prejudice that gets into the data set, then the dominant prejudice will become the information or intelligence that AI is going to throw up on a time basis. So that's number two. And the third part is, what about if somebody wants to game it? Now that we know that this is a dumb tool which is actually just picking on data of human beings, what if we start gaming it? Now, if you combine the ethical part and the prejudice part and the gaming part, what's the future of of a tool like this or a system like this?
Okay, so if you're okay, Anand, I'll go first because
please go ahead.
I do not agree with you because I have seen a very stringent data control mechanism because I'm coming from the multinational, my 25 years of experience coming with the big corporates like Abbott or Honeywell or Dana. So they are all big top 2, top 3 layer companies. Now we have existence in 89 countries core and 130 countries as all over. Okay. So ideally speaking, we have a very stringent. So I am as a CHRO today, I'm saying I do not have access to anybody's health information. I do not have access to anybody's date of birth information. So I don't know what's the age profile of my company. Even though that's a very common ask in your maybe somebody's meeting, that what is the age profile of the company, I don't have it. So it is purely depend on the maturity and which process that you follow as an organization. Second, I don't agree, because at least all three companies that we sign the contract, at the time of signing, I signed the data privacy agreement also. Today, whomsoever joining Honeywell, signing the data privacy agreement. So one is that, and second is also we are signing that what data would be shared for what purpose. Okay, so all big companies may have those protocol. The reason being is a DPDP. So I'm sure you must have heard about the DPDP launch last month. So this is something, this puts huge amount of liability on the companies. Even if vendor makes any mistake on behalf of company, and then any employee puts a claim against the company, then company is liable to pay. So we are very strict as far as the data is concerned. So it's not publicly available. We do not sign up with any such like WhatsApp. If you go to any HCM platform today, it is available on the WhatsApp. We don't sign up for that because that's a public domain information, which we don't sign. So it is depend on the maturity and the company that you operate with and their thought process. So that is point number one. Point number two, you very nicely talked about the, how we have our unconscious bias. Definitely the system would have. And when I was taking a session few days back in one of the forum, there I said, give an example. When you drive a car, I think so you drive a car by seeing into a front mirror, not on the back mirror. Now, what basically Chat GPT do? Chat GPT basically picks up the data, whatever available in the various systems, tool or platforms, and then try to find out something new from that particular information. But when I hire for someone, I hire for future skills. Today, I'm working on sustainability, BESS, green hydrogen, blue hydrogen. That information anyway not available today in any of the platforms. So ideally, as a company, how much I wanted to be rely on this kind of a, platforms that going forward would be useful. So I think so as a team, we are right now working on the policies, because we have seen few resumes, few JDs where they are coming up with the JD where actually they have said they have done everything because they have downloaded from the Chat GPT or from any of the platform. Now, for example, you just say that JD for CHRO, you will get such a nice JD you never imagine, where you must have handled unions, you must have handled plants, various stuff that you never thought of. So ideally speaking, the moment you see that, you need to be a little cognizant that what you see and what would be your policies around it. So we now working on the policy that how effectively you need to use Chat GPT internally. And if you're applying within our companies, then how we need to also see that as an application as far as the environment of that ecosystem is concerned. Sure. So we are trying to do that. And I think so you'll see that new way of things coming up very, very soon as far as the multinationals are concerned. And it would be a guiding light for a lot of other organizations as well.
Thanks, Mahesh. I just want to clarify. This was just a question. I have no point of view on this. It's just a question.
No,
But having said
this is a
that,
very common point. There is a very common
yeah,
point of view, because it is like Hindi mein kahawat hai na, when some dried is getting burnt, or the good thing is also getting burnt into that. So that's why I'm just saying that this is something
fair,
not really true for everyone.
fair enough. So I think one of the point that Mahesh, probably unconsciously touched upon is governance, right? So from where he's coming, he's talking about governance. If you look at what happened with Facebook and how the US Senate actually pulled up the Facebook founders, is because when you actually delete your Facebook account and all your past information, it gives you an option that you can completely delete it from the Facebook system. And as per the norm, Facebook was supposed to delete your account, your pictures, your family data, information, everything. But eventually it was found that while as a customer you thought that you had deleted your account and your information was still kept by such a large company, which is a multi-billion dollar organization, the world's largest social, platform. The data is still kept by them, and that data is still being curated, used to influence, behavior and look at patterns and how data is being used. So what I'm looking at is based on the public information available and all the fear around the power of AI in the world around us, is how this data governance and laws will be framed, how it will be monitored, and how individual privacy will be respected and maintained? That's the broad question. So going with that to Sachin, your views?
So a couple of points here, and I tend to kind of agree with Mahesh. If you formulate your policies strong, right? For example, I'll give you one governance aspect which we as HR professionals looked at as very closely is the background verification of one of the or critical employees that we hire. I was at a forum where I found a firm, they use a AI algo where you'll be able to get into CVs and figure out these experiences curated by some of the candidates. Are they of fake companies created only to curate those experiences? So there are people who actually pay back end, create a name of a company, 2 years experience. You make a call, and the guy will do a ref check on the back end from a fake company, right? So they have a BGV tool which tells you this is a fake organization that you've reached out and you've got the ref check right, right? So that is helping you. And uh, from where I come from, right, startup ecosystem, everybody is running fast. We are moving fast. There is barely time to breathe. So people sometimes don't give governance that due diligent importance, especially when you talk about audits. Times when you have to prove what are your controls, and that's when if you're like NTCs are strong, if you're put in NOCs in places when you're acquiring tools, if all those documentation, the policies are in right place, and your data governance is in right place, then you don't have to worry about what they're stealing from you.
Got it. Great. Thanks, Sachin. Again, Shiva, I don't know, your hand is up because you've raised it, or you have a view to
Yeah,
share? Go ahead.
yeah, just one point. Anand, I think from a compliance or governance, there is no lot today yet to be made on AI usage. It's still evolving. So any ethical or any kind of governance related aspect is evolving. That's why this book, which I referred to, talks about the conscious choices in which we are able to use technology or will be using technology is very important. I had this conversation when I spoke to Professor Gopan just now before that, and he mentioned specifically to me that we don't have a regulatory framework today on AI. I don't know if any of you know. Companies might have their own this thing. There are certain countries in Europe you might have GDPR compliant, data privacy, all that. Fundamentally, from an AI, how do we continue and where do we continue to use artificial intelligence, be it in healthcare, Dr. Foujdar is there, or be it in education, or be it in any aspect, business competition in terms of that. So we don't have any regulatory or kind of framework now. It is evolving, and I think it's very important from that context about how we, as HR professionals, also try to kind of debate and discuss more on forums, on HR forums or discussions like these on what is the kind of a regulatory, because it's today in school, colleges also it is being taught. It will be taught very soon. So I think it's important that we evolve a fairly matured and forward-looking kind of a regulatory framework. May not be the perfect framework, but I think it's important for us to start debates and discussion among us as HR professionals, and also not just in larger, because there is no, if you look at the IT Act, it doesn't talk much about this, so hardly anything. So I just wanted to lay this in front of all of you here and encourage Anand and you and the team to look at it. Data protection and there is a, but it doesn't talk about digital AI there. Okay, there is
Right.
no clear AI part.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct. Thanks, Shiva. Parul, Akila, or Dr. Raju, do you have any views on this?
I think it's all about ensuring that we do a risk assessment when we sort of adapt AI to look at, how is data being used and where is it being used and who has access to it. I think as long as we are sort of careful over there, people will always try and game the system, but it's up to us in terms of how we sort of look at risk governance and make sure that, we become protectors of, data and privacy of employees that we work with, and I think that's the role that we play in HR per se. But that apart, I think also from a business perspective, it's about the risk assessment overall. And if we do that correctly, I think we should all sort of be able to reap the benefits of AI.
Great. Thanks,
Yeah.
Akila. Parul?
I think Anand, exactly as Akila said, the risk assessment is needed. And of course, I think from an HR perspective, I also believe you need to build that integrity within your teams, within the broader business communities as well, that we need to be very clear to what extent we want to use AI and what are the controls that we are applying. So that conversation right in the beginning is equally important.
I think that's a great point. I think having that internal conversations in the leadership team, and similar to what Mahesh and Sachin mentioned, in terms of raising the awareness of, what can be done, what can't be done, and what internal governance processes need to be put in place. Because a lot of companies have started developing their own internal language models, and AI for their own companies versus focusing on using some plug and play AI tools. Dr. Raju, you have a thought on this? And
Yeah,
then after that,
basically
Harish?
like we talk about our properties of any organization, intellectual property we talk about. Same way is like human capital, and that data also to be kept secured. Obviously, government is coming up with so many regulations, but yes, customization is the key point. Whenever any organization is uh, thinking of to use any of the tools, they we can't say like one shoe fits everyone. So these are the customized things, and we should always be on top of the things, being the HR professional. The human capital equally important with respect to other assets of the organization. So we should give it proper thought before implementing any of the tools.
Great, great. So one last question as we are reaching the top of the hour is, what are each one of you doing personally? I mean, this is a question more to you than about HR, or what are what are we doing, or individually you are doing as a professional, to keep yourself abreast with all these changes happening around you, and how are you preparing yourself? Any knowledge sharing or experience sharing that you could do quickly with each other that could help us to learn from one another. Sachin, yes? Okay,
You're on
it's
mute.
not. Yeah,
You're on mute.
you're on
I'm
mute, Sachin.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm saying the first thing I do is I don't get overwhelmed with so much information and so much around, because you're always playing catch up, right? I look at areas of impact and development that I believe would help the organization I'm part of, plus the self development. If those aspects, like, see, we understand ourselves to the point that what element of our own daily execution, that or maybe the strategic execution, that we need an element of technology to be built up on. We might have the foundation of it, but can we sharpen the edges more? And based on that, I choose what works for me. I don't go for all, because then I will be just running helter skelter. So I only
Absolutely.
pick pieces which will help execute the finer edges. Because if you put it across the board, then you're going to lose your fundamental foundation.
Awesome, awesome. So I like the fact that you don't get overwhelmed. That's a great thing, right? That's one takeaway for me personally. Yeah, Dr. Raju.
Yeah, like if you talk about me, so as an individual, so few things which I always keep near to heart. One is like the adaptability. Second comes the innovation. Third comes excellence in education. Then comes the team working basically, or working across the boundaries. And then is the RTI, respect, trust, and integrity for other functions as well, which helps me becoming a complete entrepreneurial mindset for my organization.
Great. Thanks. That's a crisp summary. So, Parul, short, briefly. We have only 3 minutes to
Yeah,
go.
yeah, sure. I think what I do is, of course, as I said, my biggest fear is that managers would start writing performance reviews with AI. So that I joke around, but it truly is a worry for me. So what I'm trying to do recently and truly is to read more around ethics and governance. What is it that we can roll out at an organization level to bring awareness and to bring that conscious thought in everyone's mind that AI is here to help, but we need to draw a line.
Got it. Great. Thanks, Parul. Akila?
I think one thing that I probably try and do to understand what's happening in the landscape is if you find something that is interesting, look at a demo, ensure that you sort of get an understanding of the product, see the viability of use within the organization. That helps us also kind of keep abreast with what's happening.
Awesome. Great. So you use your position effectively actually to get demos of
Yeah.
products and services. Fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. Quick word, Mahesh. Brief, very brief.
Yes, very brief. So I think so. What I understood, Anand, is that if I wanted to make change, then I'm at leadership role. So I will have to make sure that organization also changes along with me. So right now we are working on the digital savvy culture, where we have a automation college within our system, where I think so they are conducting a basic AI ML courses for all the employees, so that they would know how to use it, and then it would be useful for me also. I'm also attending those college, and it is something very, very useful in my view.
Great. Awesome. Awesome. Shiva, what are you doing to keep pace?
I am learning prompt engineering from my son. You ask the right questions. As a coach, the asking the right questions is always the most important aspect. So prompt engineering is what I'm trying to learn. My son did a course a couple of months back. So he's trying to tell me that you need to know how to ask the right prompt question to a machine, and especially an artificial intelligence machine. So I'm trying to learn
Great.
prompt engineering.
Fantastic. So reverse mentoring and reverse learning is happening here. Harish, last word. What are you doing to keep abreast with
Yeah,
what is
sorry,
happening around you?
my internet has got some stability issues. Yeah, yeah. Are you able to listen to me, please?
Yeah, I can hear
Hello.
you. Last question was,
Right,
what are
right.
you?
I got
What are
internet.
you? It seems
What
like he
are
has
we
an.
doing as an organization, right?
No, no. What are you doing as an individual to
Hello.
learn? Okay,
See,
I
I'm
think
already
there's.
using in Chat GPT as an organization. We're already using the Chat GPT. Also, there is a login we are having for Copilot, where as a team the leadership is using and trying to see how it is responding to various questions that are coming up. As an organization, we also set up an internal team which is actually working on Coel AI, where the question of data has been addressed in the right way, where
So
there
what
is
are
no
you
breach
doing,
of something
Harish? The
happening
question is,
around.
what are Harish? Sorry to interrupt. What are you doing personally to stay abreast? That's the question.
Yeah, I see. That is what I already started using Chat GPT. I got the Plus subscription to that, where I'm using it in different ways
Fantastic.
to understand
Okay.
how it comes out. I also started using Copilot, which is an organization level thing which has been given to us by Microsoft, and that is also I'm using and trying to understand how that responds to various things around. Um, Moreover, I'm also trying to see meeting people who are coming up with these ideas related to AI on various HR and business related problems which an organization faces, and they're coming with some solutions.
Sure.
We are meeting them. I am meeting them in person, understanding what is the solution they are going to bring using this particular tool. So these
Sure.
are the various ways, and we are also making sure that. Listening to the Gen Z or Gen Alpha or the new people who are coming up, so we are actually understanding them because we are recruiting most of them, understanding what is their thought process, what is that they are expecting
Sure,
from an
Harish.
organization which is already 135 years old. These are some ways
Sure.
we are actually keeping up. And myself, as I told you, I'm using it extensively for many things. And I found what Shri Shiva has spoken. Prompt engineering is something which is constant learning as a person for myself. Thank you.
Great. Great. Thank you, Harish. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. So I think I'm going through a AI course for 8 months with Growth School. So I'm learning a lot of tools and I'm experimenting with multiple tools. That's something I'm doing personally to learn and stay abreast, including prompt engineering, as Shiva said. So thank you, guys. Thank you so much for the time. And I want to respect everyone's time and make sure that we close. We're already 1 minute over and we won't go any further. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate you guys taking time out to have this conversation. A recording of this will be available in a matter of 2 to 3 days. And then afterwards, any specific voice recording before we post anywhere on LinkedIn or social media. Shalini will reach out to you for due permission and consent before we publish any of these material anywhere on any public forum. Yeah. So just want to be mindful and respectful of that and wanted to share that too. Thank you so much and have a great evening.